Welcome back to my Battlemap tutorial series. Today we are going to be talking about creating a round castle tower. In my previous video we talked about creating a square castle tower or a gatehouse tower. So we're going to create that. I'm not going to go through in how to get textures. You can either refer to the previous video or my base template tower. Normally I would just create it off of here, but for simplicity I'm just going to create a new image. And we're going to create this one again 400 by 400 because we want it similar size to our previous tower. I'm going to go to my base template and drag my stone wall over there because again I want similar looking textures. I'm going to delete the background, and again, since this is actually quite large, as you can see it's much larger, I'm just going to Control A, Control C and paste, and then delete the back tutorial. So again, zoom in. Now we want this centered. So again, I'm just going to zoom in at 400 by 400 pixels. My center should be 200, and then my down should be 200 as well. We want these guides for marks. Okay. As I also previously mentioned in my other tutorials, I like a little spacing around my prefabs, so I'm just going to adjust the canvas size. And I'm going to put 5 pixels on either side, so 410, 410. You don't have to do this. I just like a little white space to see shadows and stuff like that. Okay, so next we're going to go to our select marquee, or elliptical marquee. We're going to center this in the center, and then we're going to hold the start dragging, and then hold the Alt key, which will center on the center, and then Shift key, which will make it round rather than elliptical. And we're going to try and get that right to the edge, just a little bit under. Then go select inverse and cut, and that'll give us a nice round texture. We're going to select that texture so we get it with our marching ants. Create a new layer, and we're going to hit Shift F5 to fill that foreground color black. I am going to modify that selection, and in a previous video, again, this is to your preference, I'm going to modify it by 4, and that's how big I want my shadows. Larger towers you may need more, also larger resolutions you may need more, but for my resolutions, which is approximately 50 to 60 pixels per 5-foot square, that's perfectly fine for me. And in fact, that looks a little thick, but we'll go with that. Again, we'll create another layer and select our circle again. In fact, let's just save this circle. Save this selection, outer circle, because we're going to need it later. And then I'm going to modify that selection and contract again. And again, normally if you want a 5-foot battlements, you would do your width. So in my case, I'd do 50 pixels. But I want it just a little bit shorter than that, so I'm going to go 45 pixels. And actually, because I made the outer shadow 4 pixels, we're going to want to expand that, and so I'm going to make it 4 pixels, and you'll see why real quick here. So again, we're going to fill that with our foreground color, and then I'm going to modify that selection by 4 pixels. Okay. I'm going to merge those 2 layers down. Now another selection we're going to need this inner circle. So let's select that inside and just save that selection off. And inner circle. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we're going to work on our battlements. And so we're just going to zoom in here to get close. We're going to go to our square or rectangle marquee. And you want to get about center between these 2 widths, and I probably should measure this, but I usually freehand it. So start dragging, hit the Alt key to center it, and then Shift to make it square. And so basically you want to go till your top of it is, as you can see, right at the outside circle. Okay, but obviously we don't want this and we don't want that, so that's where we're going to use our selections. We're going to load our selection, and we're going to do the intersection of our outer circle. Okay, And then we're going to load our selection again. We're going to load the inner selection, and we're going to subtract. And so that will get rid of that. Now again, it's square. You probably don't want it square, so we're going to zoom out. We're going to go to our Polygon Lasso tool. We're going to select on the center and hold the Alt key, and then go to the outer corner and just out. So it deselects that, and we're going to do the same for this. Go there and there. So that gives us a nice angle. So we're going to then create a new layer. We're going to fill that layer again as well. Background color black, which gives us our basic battlement. And then we're going to modify that. I'm going to contract that by 12 pixels. See how that looks? That's about the right size. And again, it's preferences. And so now you can just set this shadow again to what you think it should be. 50 to 60%. You might want it a little bit darker depending upon your textures and stuff. So again, if we zoom out, we can sort of see that. And we'll actually adjust this guy down. Doesn't really matter for that guy as well. We'll make him a little bit there. Okay, so we got our basic tower started, as you can sort of see. Now, here, this next step's a little bit tricky. So what you want to do is select your layer of your battlement, and we're going to hit Control-Alt-T. Now, normally you hit Control-T to modify, but basically with Control-Alt-T, it will create a copy. Whoops. And then you can adjust that copy. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag our center down to here, and at 205 pixels, and see if we can get this exact 205 pixels, because again, if you didn't add the extra 5 pixels on either side, it would be 200 pixels. But again, basically the center. And then we're going to rotate this 190 degrees, or 180 degrees, sorry. Yeah, I'm bad at math. And then we're going to compress that layer. So Control-E to shrink that layer down. So basically that's our two battlements. We're then going to hit Control-Alt-T again and duplicate that. And we're going to rotate that 90 degrees and hit enter. Then again, we're going to hit Control-E to merge that down, and Control-Alt-T again. And we're going to rotate again. Now you could just go 45 degrees, or right about in the middle, 45 degrees, and leave it at that. That's not bad. And then merge that down. So again, but it's a little bit wide, and you may not want that width. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to Control-Alt-T again, and at that point we're just going to shift it once more, and this should be about 22, 45 half is 22 and a half degrees, so right there. Okay, so that's not bad. Again, you've got about a 3-foot space. If this is 5 foot, that should be about 2 foot, 3 foot in between, which is probably normal for medieval towers. So that's basically the main part of it. We're going to come down here. We're going to create a new layer, which is underneath this one, which is Control, click the layer, and so that creates it underneath our other layer. We're then going to go to the Select Marquee tool, and whoops, make sure we're on the right layer. Select the inner circle again, or we could have loaded our selection. Forgot we had that saved. And then we're basically going to draw an inner shadow. So I'm going to go to my paintbrush. Again, I like irregular brushes about the size of my pixels, maybe a little bit bigger, so, or 5-foot squares, so this is 70 pixels. I've got an opacity of 17. I'll leave that as is, and I'll create this down to 30. And I'll just go along the edges and draw some shadows. That's it. And so if you then drag this over, get rid of that, we have basically our tower. Now again, what you want to do is probably create this into a group so you can easily drag your group around. And if you have different size towers, you may want to put the size in it. So you can easily do it and save that image off. Or as you can see, let's take it back to our base. And we'll get rid of that. We'll put some grass down. There's my tower. Oh, and I probably should link these, because if I try and move them, they work like that. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.